is I, Zara Khan, aka 5th grade Duelist, here with Jesse Kotton for the Becoming a First Grade Duelist podcast, part 2. We are on Spotify and Anchor and Apple and stuff like that. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That would be super dope. And you are always welcome to watch these interviews on Twitch at twitch.tv/5thrateduelist. And you can submit questions for the guests on my Twitter at twitter.com/5thrateduelist. So, Jesse, would you like to introduce yourself for the one person that doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, my name is Jesse Kotton. I'm a professional duelist. I guess one of the closest things you can be to a professional duelist. I travel the world to compete at events, and I have a pretty good track record at those. And I appear on YouTube channels of a bunch of content creators from time to time.
Okay, awesome. All right. And then I know we talked about this, but I didn't press record. Do you want to tell us the story of this iconic picture where we are told that's when you got de-shifted?
Yeah, so if you can see in the picture, there's no Mothman on the field, which is when I got shifted. So in that picture, you see there's no Mothman because that picture is not from when I got shifted. It's simply between games. They want to write everybody's hands down. So he was on, I'm pretty sure he was on Raymond's side. So he was writing down Raymond's hand, and he said, "While you're doing that, can you pose for a picture so we can also put something on the blog?" Sure. Which is pretty normal practice. And I guess I just gave a really good death stare. Yeah, so the picture isn't as interesting as people thought it was.
Oh, man.
Still a good picture.
It is a good picture. Yeah, the magic is gone, though. But I don't know. That Konami writer deserves props for, coming up with that line and that caption. It was so perfect.
What's the caption?
The caption was, Jesse activated Mothman and his opponent activated Dimension Shifter. And then it showed this. So that's why we all thought, this was your luck when you got Dimension Shifter. Yeah. Wait, but why would Mothman be on the field? Did he do it, after you activated Mothman, or did he chain to it?
I chained to it, but, your hand... I mean, I slipped my hand immediately face down afterwards when I'm resolving Mothman, because there's nothing else that matters from that point. They roll a die, so my hand would be on the table.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Alright, so I believe you had a recent accomplishment. Do you want to share about that? One of many, but, the most recent one.
This picture's in the finals of YCS, which I got second from.
Yeah, and this was the Canada one, right?
Niagara, 2 hours, or not even 2 hours from my home, so it's kind of nice.
Oh, nice. So, how did you feel in the finals? Do you get nervous, or do you do this so often that it doesn't even matter?
At this point, a lot of the anxiety's worn off, so I didn't feel that nervous. Not like I'm entirely confident or comfortable either. It still is a high-pressure situation. But for me, I've been in this spot before. And for a lot of people, they really after that YCS when I've already gotten that. So for me, it's not as much weight on my shoulders, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to win. I cared, and I was a bit anxious. Definitely wasn't as anxious as I was the first times in the finals. I think anxiety hits me most, and not to something to qualify for Worlds or at Worlds is kind of. That's the next achievement I'm aiming for is getting a premium achievement there. Mm-hmm. So that's when I get nervous because that's something I'm a lot more invested in.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get over your nerves? Was it just doing it so often, or did you use meditation, or what was it?
I mean, it requires you to kind of thrust yourself into that situation frequently so you get used to it. I've made many mistakes on stream before. Or in tournament, not even on stream, but yeah, in stream as well. From I think my third top cut finish was in 2016 WCQ, and I just punted the match to go to Worlds. Just the nerves got to me. And that's not the only time I misplayed, but that one you can just watch. It may not look like it did anything crazy, but I knew BA really well, and anybody who knows BA really well will know that I made an error. That probably cost me the game, and like it was something where I was in ring position, and it probably would have won anyways. My opponent had like the exact hands to punish me, so it was kind of deserved. I was unlucky, but I also could have just had a guaranteed win, and I just played incorrectly, and that was my own fault.
I see. I see.
The nerves 100% will get you at some point, and important not to fixate on it happening when it does happen, because everyone will have it to some degree. Mistakes, whether it be by pressure or just fart. Um, Festering on it is the worst thing you can do, because then it continues to affect the rest of your plays and you make more mistakes.
Okay.
Otherwise, with anxiety, it's sometimes pausing, taking a deep breath, like not really meditation. I don't know, I'm not really into meditation, but just kind of like pause for a second, take a step back, and look at everything from perspectives. Kind of realize, okay, I'm just playing a game. Like I care about this, but pressure's not actually that high right now, and you kind of calm yourself down. Just really try and understand what's happening and process it a bit. That can help a lot for dealing with anxiety, because at the end of the day, you are playing a game. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think I've gotten better with my anxiety since I first talked to you about this, like last year. But it definitely is still a challenge type of a thing.
It is something that's not easy, right? And it's different for every person. I'm not gonna say and tell you what happened with me will 100% work for you, because that's the type of thing that from person to person will vary. See someone post in the chat, what would you do with someone with a generalized anxiety disorder? Fortunately, that's not something I have. I can't really give you any guidance on that. Um, Maybe see if anybody else in the community has something like that and have some advice, so you can follow in their footsteps more, because that's not a problem I've had to deal with. My advice would be kind of um, presumptuous and kind of, uneducated. I wouldn't want to steer you wrong. Yeah, it may take some people more time than others to get used to it.
Yeah, to quickly answer that, I guess as a therapist, is deep breathing, if you can learn to do that and not just do it when you're anxious, but do it when you're well. If you get into the habit of doing deep breathing multiple times a day, that will overall reduce your anxiety. Um, let's see. I just lost. Oh yeah. So, prior to Niagara, like I believe you went to a few YCSs and NACs, right? But you didn't quite have the success that you wanted. So how did it feel to be in that position, and how did you get through it?
Yeah. So before start of the season, so the WCQ, I attended, not really the WCQ, whatever we called it this year, but our equivalent to that. I also attended YCS Guadalajara, Charlotte, and Hartford. I think those are the three. Yeah. So I went to 4 events last season. Um, all of which I ended up losing to either the first or second round. Like being knocked out there, which is upsetting, right? I mean, because you're playing out the entirety day one with contention to still make the top cut, and then losing right at the end there, close, and like it slips away. Something where I've been in that position before, and then I eventually got over it. So I know that it's something that will pass. It makes it easier for me because it's a familiar spot. But it does feel shitty because it means you aren't really rewarded for any of your hard work, and it's basically means you're like traveling and spending money and time and not getting anything out of it. Next steps for it is kind of just again kind of taking the perspective, not getting too upset about it because it's just a card game. But then to get better, it's look at, okay, maybe I got unlucky, but maybe not. Let's kind of understand what happened. Maybe you made mistakes with playing. Maybe you made mistakes with deck building. Try make it as much of a learning opportunity as possible. I know at least for myself, I wasn't, and still now, I'm not as kind of at the top of my game as I had been in previous years. So, very real possibility that I just made mistakes in the tournaments, and some where I definitely did. And that
Was
could
it
have been
just
the difference between making it or not.
lack of time, or was it like
Yeah, it's lack
the
of time. I have
format?
a lot less free time now than I used to.
Oh, okay, I see. Was there anything you did differently for Niagara than the previous YCSs?
So I also did Rio, but that was this season. I did well both the tournaments.
Okay.
Um, Tier deck plays very similar to Danger Thunder, which is fortunate for me because that deck I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I can comfortably say I was one of the best in the world with. Um, I just had a very, very deep understanding of how to play that deck well, going first and into interruptions. And the fact that it felt so similar playing Danger tier elements meant I didn't actually have that much of a learning curve. So when I picked it up, I could play pretty naturally. And while there was still stuff I learned, in the early rounds when I'm playing opponents who also weren't at a higher quality, that's when I was learning most of the deeper interactions. And I got a bit lucky, right? Because it was a deck that was kind of something I understood so well already. Like if a new Drytron deck came out and you had to play that, you'd pick it up a lot faster than something that's not like it. So it's the same thing for me. The Danger tier deck just played so similar to the Danger Thunder deck that helped a lot. But otherwise, how do you prepare it? I mean, honestly, I didn't prepare as much for these tournaments. It was mostly that. But if I wanted to do well and I wasn't as familiar with the deck, the best way to do it is kind of just force yourself to play more to understand how your deck interacts with your opponent's decks or all the decks of the meta and specific cards. Um, then so fixing your deck around those interactions.
Okay. That makes sense. Like, I feel like by the time I kind of like learn all the cards and learn the interactions and feel comfortable with the format, it changes because a new set comes out or a ban list or something. And then it's just like, oh, I have to start all over and learn everything over again. So it's become like a little exhausting because I'm so busy that it's very difficult for me
Yep.
to give enough time to stay on top
As
of everything.
that's part of why it was a bit harder for me to like get to like the extra mile. The last past couple months, it was a different format, and I want to particularly enjoy it either. So I'm even less inclined to play and practice.
Mm-hmm.
Then it leaves me kind of on a lesser playing field than a lot of my opponents. So that definitely hurts. But also, as you play more and get play more formats, we'll start to just get better at learning new decks because even if the decks aren't exactly like, you'll pick up parallels between strategies and you'll like learn how to play combo decks, learn how to play trap decks, learn how to play mid range decks. Um, and those skills will translate somewhat into the new formats. So even if at first it takes longer, it will get quicker and quicker.
Okay. I hope so. Yeah, I didn't do well at the LA regional. Um, I had kind of a weird situation. Like, I was playing Danger Tier, but I wasn't super comfortable with the build that I had. Just because I'd
Mm.
been trying so many different builds, I didn't like settle on one. And then it was an issue of like other opponents also playing slow, but I don't feel comfortable telling people to play faster because I don't feel like I play fast. And then I ended up getting like two draws, and I just dropped because I was like, I can't do a whole tournament where I just end up in a bunch of draws. So it was like very discouraging. Like, I haven't actually played since then. It was like 2 weeks ago because I'm just like feel bad about it. But yeah.
You have to start somewhere. So I mean, you can't expect every tournament to go well. And last regional I went, I was just trying to learn. I understand like what you like have goals with the tournament of like what you're trying to accomplish, and sometimes it might not be to do well. It might just be to learn. At which point you shouldn't drop. You should just play to keep learning until you need to go do something else or whatever. Last regionals, like I don't particularly care about regionals because it's not really that prestigious to me. Um, so I played something different. I was trying to explore an idea, and ended up not working. But I was playing for educational purposes, pretty much.
Uh huh.
So, like, and then when I lose, it's not a big of a deal. Like I'm playing to learn, and especially if you're trying to get better. Just if you force yourself to play a little more, it does improve. I know it can be a little hard, but when you keep in mind what your actual goal is, and it's that to get better, and don't get discouraged as much for not doing well because that's part of the learning process, and you can't actually be upset about that.
Yeah, that's true. That makes a lot of sense. I guess it's just sort of like, I don't know. I miss my Drytron days because I just felt like I knew that deck so well, and I had like results to back it up, type of a thing.
Yeah,
And ever since then, I've just not felt confident with the deck like I did back then.
yeah,
So
but
yeah.
a common thing that newer players do. Um, they'll cling to the deck they had some success with. It does stunt their growth sometimes. You do need to expand because it lets you keep adapting. And obviously, if you get stuck with a not relevant deck anymore, you're just putting yourself at a strict disadvantage. Obviously, this is a game for fun, so you could stick with the deck if you just find it a lot more enjoyable. You are have to go in with an understanding that you're just going to be in an uphill battle almost all the time. It's
Yeah.
back to like playing with what's your purpose behind playing, right? Like to get better, have fun, and mess around. Is it really to just compete at the top level? And for me, even like a mixture of fun and competing, but unless it's an incredibly important event to me, I will never like pick a deck I just strictly like because it's not worth it.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think I do like Tears quite a bit. Like I really vibe with that deck, and I played a lot before the LA Regional. But I think I kind of like just tried too many different builds that I didn't stick to one and really learn it, and I think that was like a mistake on my part. But then I don't know because you're supposed to try different builds, but I don't know.
So let's round with a little first, but it's hard for you to rationalize why any one version is better than the other if you don't have a good core understanding of how the cards in the decks work properly. So it's more important to have the understanding of the deck. And for different players, they can pick that up at different speeds. If you, for like, I'm fortunate where I've played for so long and played so much that I can pick these up at least on a basic level pretty quickly. So I can look at these different builds and maybe grasp of it better and some most of the time like figure out which is better. However, if you there are sometimes I can't, and if it's because I don't have a good understanding of the deck. Like if someone showed me a Kshatriya Law deck, which I don't have a good understanding of right now because I haven't like practiced it or played it at all, I wouldn't actually be able to tell you which version is better. I have no idea how to like back up my thoughts with any sort of reasonings. So that's the same with like a bunch of different builds to tier deck, right? I'm not saying you didn't understand it, but in a hypothetical world where you didn't understand the deck at the fullest degree, it becomes harder for you to actually like make sense of why any one build is good, what any one build's merits are, and what its downsides are.
Yeah, that's true. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we have a question from a friend of mine. She, for a long time, has been going to locals and hasn't been doing well. But she's been putting in the work. She's been streaming, playing a lot. I think she picked up like some math mech deck.
Yeah.
And she recently topped locals, which she was like really happy about.
Awesome.
So her question was talking about like how do you make the transition from being sort of competitive to dedicating the time and energy to be truly competitive.
Um, this is another one where it's going to depend on the person a lot. I can give you my story and hope that can give a bit of perspective, but it's not going to be the same with everybody. Um, I think a lot of it is surrounding yourself with players who are, or people, not just players, but who are like-minded and have similar goals, already involved in that sort of type of environment. Then it brings you bigger or more and more into the competitive fold. For me, each level of like my career, like going casual to more and more competitive, myself with new groups of people to talk to who I eventually like started fitting in with. Then I'd be part of like locals, for example. So I started off playing with my friend in kindergarten, which is forever ago. I've been playing the game forever. Then it was we went to locals. I made local friends. Now I'm going to locals every week, and that's how I got to that point. And then it was I found out about regionals, so I made friends from all over Toronto because we meet up at regionals, and we talked about regionals and got more into the game in that way. I went to my first YCS. I met other duelists my age who would drive to or any YCS within 8 hours of them. So I'm like, okay, started talking to them, and they'd be excited to go to events. And now I drove 8 hours to go to the next YCS there, and then I started meeting wanted to go to more and more events flying. Like, okay, so started talking to the people who do that, became friends with them, and I'm in that community, and now I'm more encouraged to travel even further. That's kind of what happened with me. Um, for improving your game, like having good people to talk to in that sense also just helps incredibly. They can put your mindset in the right spot. Um, from
Yeah.
casual to competitive, like as a strict jump, it can be like depends where your head's at, playing sense. That one you definitely want to um, just watch like more of these type of videos, more some comprehensive coaching, even if it's just like online videos. Doesn't have to be from a actual coaching session. Um, it's a bit like of a deep subject.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of like a gradual process that does take time. It's not really so much of a jump from casual to competitive, and a lot of it has to do with networking and meeting people and gaining more experience for sure.
If you jump in straight away, I mean, it's possible and people have done it, but sometimes maybe too out of the element and it may uh, be jarring of an experience. Depends on a lot. I mean, I don't really know how to put it in words better.
Okay. No, you did a great job. Can you talk about the benefits of coaching?
Benefits of coaching? Sure. So, I mean, the benefits of coaching, the biggest one is it's more of a personalized plan. You have someone who can gauge your progress and give you a objective view on how you've been progressing. A lot of players like to say they've improved, or they're garbage, or they're really good. And either they're like sometimes they're blinded by their own like entire locals not being very high quality. So when they win locals, they get overly excited, or or too arrogant, or they're the opposite, where they're like don't appreciate their own skills enough. Having that objective person to really uh, edu is helpful, and then being able to personalize it to your exact needs, and can slow down as well, right? So like sometimes when you don't understand a concept, watching YouTube video can still be confusing, but having someone who's there who can like keep going back and explaining as much as you need to can be helpful. It's not for everybody. I think the closest comparison you can make to it is if you're in a class in college, if you'd want to do tutoring or any of those like other like smaller class sessions to give you that extra boost. It's not necessary by any means, but if you learn better in that type of style where you're being more one-on-one and you have a lot more attention given to you, then I can see it being useful for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think also it just saves a lot of time because you can have someone who's like has the experience and made the efforts kind of just tell you a more directed approach of how to go about things, which is like very invaluable, especially like with how fast paced Yu-Gi-Oh is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times though you can find good resources on YouTube though. Podcasts like this can provide pretty good information. I mean, even if someone has a question, they could ask on your Twitter, and I would have asked here. So um, definitely other ways to learn, um, which I think honestly it is probably faster to learn through coaching, but more about learning style. I think more than anything, it matters for.
Okay. Um. So I was talking to Paolo on Friday, and he was talking about how much he hates floodgates and thinks that they should all be banned, type of
Most Yu-Gi-Oh
thing.
players would agree on that. Yeah.
What's your opinion on it?
I mean, you're asking a very biased question, right? I don't think any player who like, enjoys the game is really going to say they like floodgates. Now, obviously, floodgates don't just encompass traps; it's anything that prevents the game from being played. So I hate Dweller. Yuzka, Lancia, Droll are annoying, like Scythe. Um, Now, even though these aren't floodgates, ending on like seven negates essentially acts like a floodgate, and that's where it's a bit weird. Konami is to also restrict abilities to do that. An ideal combo deck should be able to actually play the game going second. The mid-range deck or the other decks should be able to like, stop them without floodgating them. You have interesting games of like players playing around back row properly and managing resources on both sides. And then where if the combo deck goes first as well, it's not just an auto win. I actually think tier is pretty interesting right now because the tier end field is not actually that crazy outside of Dollar if you're playing the mirror or Eradicator if you're playing a spell deck. Like if you take out those floodgates, you're actually dealing with like a snow, some fusing, Sulic, which is all stuff that can be played through in the mirror match.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can actually get into interesting like, games because you're not being flooded out. It's like the ideal you go for me, but for a balance for sure. So don't know. I think floodgates are the wrong direction, but it does keep the decks, some of the decks in check when they're too powerful. But that's a good thing either. So I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. We have a question from MBT. So it's regarding time management. He just feels like, you know, you're constantly making appearances in Yu-Gi-Oh series, playing alternate formats, and then you have your coaching and you have your potato card business thingy. So like, how do you manage your time?
It's incredibly hard. I work a lot, and my social life is not great. Um, and I'm fine. I enjoy what I'm doing, so I'm not a problem with it. But I don't dedicate that much time to going out with friends during the week, and I pretty much work hard so I can go to events and spend the extra time there. Um, how to like manage trying to keep up with the format, kind of hard. Uh, that's where again I'm graced to the benefit of having so much experience behind me that it's a lot easier for me to grasp it. So I can see why maybe he's like curious how I'm able to keep up competitive. It's maybe something he wants to improve the game at, but he's struggling with content creation. I don't have to dedicate as much time. It's a somewhat strong level um, because of how much time I put in the past. So to get to the level, you will have to put in a lot of time at some point. For me, it's just already happened.
Okay.
If he wants to take it to the next level properly, it would honestly just have to be like him slowing down other stuff for a bit and then moving time there because there's not really another way. There's a finite amount of time anyone has.
Yeah. Like for me, it's like I work full time. I have a second job. I try to do content creation and I try to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's just impossible to do all of it. I haven't figured out a way to do it. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
we'll see
don't
what's up.
play that much modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Like my first local in months last week, this weekend. It's yesterday. Yesterday, yeah. I just a bit burnt out from work. I decided to go to locals. Um, but I just play so infrequently that it's not. I don't have to actually dedicate that much time in my time management to practicing. It's not something I'd recommend for a lot of players, but I've just been there before, and I also have a stronger support system. I know pretty much all the professional duelists, so if I need a bit of help, people are usually quick to help me. Now that's a luxury a lot of people have, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, that is something that I need to work on. Like, because if I have a question, I have like one person to go to. Um, but they don't even like they only play online. They don't play like at events or anything like that. Um,
Mm.
so like getting like a testing circle or something. I was asked to start a team. Pyramid asked me to start a team. But it's gonna be like it necessarily have to be like the most competitive people ever. It's more like a fun team, but we are gonna have like advantages for people who do play competitively. So I'm hoping through that I can get like a little like testing circle and some help and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, we'll see what's up. Do you have a deck you play for fun?
Enjoy a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Pretty much as long as it's not a floodgate deck, I am happy to play it. And it's the fun deck changes frequently. I enjoy anything from traps, some mid-range to fun combo to like gimmicky combos even. So I think for stream, you want to play rematch just me. I was gonna play Fun Deck because you said you were gonna play Drytrons as well. I was gonna play Crystal Beasts because they got new cards and those cards are cool.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Um, enjoy Danger Tier a lot, so right now honestly I just play a lot of that. But when I didn't like it, what did I play? I enjoy BA, Paleo, uh, most decks. To be honest, I'm quite fond of.
Okay. Um, do you have any rules for your deck building? Like 10%, like 90% has to be a chance to open a starter. Like 25% is supposed to be a hand trap or whatever.
A bit more complicated than that because you want to always be flexible based on the circumstances of the format. So for a hand trap, for example, I can say I'm expecting versus tiers. I just want to draw one like Imperm, Veiler, Warner type card, and that's probably good enough to make the field kind of weak. Or maybe you want two hand traps. Kind of depends, but like past format versus Scythe, if I'm playing around Scythe, maybe I need more hand traps. I need two hand traps to stop Scythe. That's where it's like those are different requirements. Um, and so I wouldn't have like a set ratio I'm looking for. It would depend each format on what I'm trying to accomplish. So what you want to do is figure out what you want to happen, try and maximize that as much as you can without giving up on other stuff. So obviously you want to see a way to play the game with consistency. And that would be something to prioritize with any deck and any strategy. Whether it be starter or just whatever you consider a way to play, you should try and maximize that as much as possible without sacrificing in the other areas that are also important. There's only like real rule I have is you want your deck to be logic driven. You want to have a solid rationale for any of your choices. A good way to do this, I find, is almost like what they teach you in school, where you writing an essay, you read it out loud to yourself, and you'll catch grammar errors, any stupid mistakes you've had, and what you can actually, and what you can do with Yu-Gi-Oh instead is you like don't actually have to make a deck profile, but you like talk as if you are doing a deck profile and explain your card choices, and oftentimes you'll say something and you're like, oh wait a second, that's stupid. Why is it like this? And you actually can catch errors that way. Just have solid explanations for any of the decisions you're making. That's the biggest thing for me, because that's when you can catch any of the silly stuff, that you cut the excess fat from your deck and really make it optimized. I'm not one who's like very strict on numbers, because or like strict on like any specific number, because numbers meaning kind of random. The decks I've played is all over from 40 to 49 to 52, like anything.
Okay. Has there ever been a deck that like you've gone into a tournament playing that you didn't like, but it was too powerful to not play?
Yes. At the time, I regret it. So I've done it more than I'd like, and I would do it less and less now that I've kind of learned. You learn no matter how much you play. In a 2018 Goki format, could not stand that deck. It's just incredibly like that format was just terrible. I don't just travel to events to play. I travel for friends, and I force myself to play the deck at events, and I just should have not played that deck. Like I don't like it. The issue is as well when you don't like a deck is you're less inclined to keep playing when things go wrong, or we get more upset and you do bad because you feel like you've already sacrificed something to play the tournament, which affects your play. Also less inclined to play test, so you're not going to be as familiar with the deck as other people. And it really just puts you pretty far behind in the tournament, because in business you want to have some sort of competitive edge, be competing in business in general. So with like Yu-Gi-Oh, if you don't have any sort of edge, what's happening? I like, and so if I'm just playing the same deck as everyone else, and I haven't played as much, I'm just at a strict disadvantage. I'm going to rely on luck significantly more to do well, and that's not a position I really want to be in. And then if I'm going to do poorly, I want to at least enjoy myself. So, like for those events I played Goki, I wish I would have just played something I enjoyed more, like Thunder Dragons. Because even though Thunder Dragons wasn't great in that format, I could have done okay still, and I would have actually enjoyed myself, and I would have known the deck better. So that was a mistake. I really, really care about an event. I forced myself to play a deck I don't like when I think it's the correct choice, but that has to be very infrequent. Because at the end of the day, I do play this game to enjoy myself. The only time I can think of it, I did it, and I actually like was the correct decision, was the 2019 World Points qualifier. So I was in the top 16 for World Points that year, and then those players played single elimination, and the top 2 of the 16 go to the World Championship. And figured out a really good Sky Striker strategy. And even though Thunder Dragons were legal, and I was really, really good with it, I felt like the Sky Striker deck I was able to figure out a version that had almost no weaknesses, and it was very well positioned to take the tournament. And I do not really enjoy playing Sky Strikers. So, forced myself to play Sky Strikers and learn it. I could have just entered the tournament and that's it because I would have done poorly and not understood it well. I forced myself to grind and understand the deck, and that's something where I very much treated it like work because I had a specific end goal in mind I was trying to reach. But I would not just do that for any tournament. I couldn't do it frequently because it's not fun. I would need to play something I have a good time playing.
Okay. All right. So one more question. Where do you want Yu-Gi-Oh to go in terms of future card design? Like, what do you think the next step should be for Konami?
I'm not a fan of super generic stuff, like Appaloosa, because it means any deck does the same thing over and over again. It likes decks having their own individual like qualities to play with and being unique in their own way. So, like Anaconda is one that I hated as well because every deck does some DP and that's it. Like it meant the game less interesting. Less floodgates as well, and less stuff that accesses your main deck because when you can constantly access your main deck, that's when a lot of the broken stuff kind of gets created. Like Curious, Beatrice, Isolde. These cards just should not exist. There's many more. Just cards that are so easily accessible to then get you any card in your deck are just not okay.
Mhm. Okay. All right, sweet. Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to talk about or any questions you have for me or anything like that?
No, not really. I think we're good. I don't know if the chat had any questions they wanted to
Yeah,
talk about
chat,
quickly.
if you have any questions, drop them. But otherwise, how do we find you, Jesse?
They find me well. I'm not. I have a YouTube channel. I may at some point. Almost done with university. When I'm done with that, I may make a channel. I feel like I'm probably better positioned than a lot of people as a starting point. I already have a name for myself. Um, that would be a while out still. Otherwise, I have a Twitter account, but honestly, that's just whatever. If you want to see me post my event updates, just Twitter Jesse Kotton. That's it. Otherwise, I'm on Team Samurai X1's channel pretty frequently for Duel Night. So if you want to watch that, it's a great series.
And Metafy.
Oh yeah, my Metafy is currently inactive. I am just too busy to coach people right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Metafy.gg, Jesse Cod, and I'm not sure when I'll be able to open it up. I'm still dealing with a lot of products coming in from the Megatins. I need to process that all first. So hopefully in a couple weeks I'll have my Metafy back online.
Okay, sweet. All right. So thank you. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave me a review. Check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/5th-rate duelist. We do these podcasts every Thursday night, 6 p.m. PST. Next week we're gonna have Hani on, Hani Jawari. I don't know how to say his last name. And we're going to also have a duel with Jesse in a couple of minutes. So check that out on YouTube. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.